Awesome. So just a quick overview on how to use Jamboard. If you do have access, again, you'll be able to do this yourself at the end. But Jamboard is a Google product, and essentially what you're doing is you're clicking that button that's circled on the right-hand corner. I'm sorry, on the left-hand side. It's basically a sticky, and you have the option of choosing the color that you want. We're going to be using yellow for questions and orange for ideas. And we'll touch base. We'll come back to this at the end of the workshop. Next slide, please. So the agenda for today, we're going to cover our mission statement. You'll get to meet our team. We have some new team members, which I'm excited for you all to meet. We'll also jump into our topic about nutrition. Why should educators care? Cultivating a culture of healthy eating in your classroom, holding space for healthy eating lessons and discussions, using nutrition education as part of experiential learning, and then we'll share with you some resources of nutrition-based lessons that we have on our toolshed. And then we'll jump into our survey and Q&A. Next slide, please. So our mission statement is that GVI is an urban agriculture organization in Bridgeport. Our mission is to grow food, knowledge, leadership, and community through urban gardening and farming to create a more just food system in Bridgeport. We recognize the importance of addressing the systemic inequities that cause poverty and hunger in our city. We are working towards a Bridgeport in which all people can eat, access healthy, culturally relevant, locally grown foods at school, at work, and at home. Through our school garden program, GVI aims to boost teacher confidence and aid their ability to use gardens as an outdoor classroom. We offer skill building opportunities like this PD, experiential farm field trips, classroom tools, and gardening supplies. Next slide, please. All right, so I'd love to introduce you to the rest of our school garden team. So I'll pass it off to Alexis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a first-year food corps service member at Green Village Initiative. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Food Corps, it's just this really incredible national nonprofit whose mission is to work with communities to connect kids to healthy food in school. So that's why myself and Emma, who you'll meet after me, are here to do, and I'm very passionate about the work and really excited to be here. Go ahead, Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma Holtzman. I'm a first-year food corps service member serving at Green Village Initiative. I am passionate about giving children and students of any age every opportunity to live healthier and happier lives. And I'm excited to be here with you all today to explain the connection between the foods we eat and our overall well-being. So thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mishara. I use she, her pronouns. I am the school garden program coordinator at GVI, and I will jump right into our presentation. Next slide. Did you know US students receive less than 8 hours of required nutrition education each school year? Around 45% of deaths among children under 5 years of age are linked to undernutrition. Added sugars and saturated fats contribute to over 40% of the daily calorie content of children ages 2 to 18 years old. Eating a healthy breakfast is associated with improved cognitive function, reduced absenteeism, and overall improved mood. Next slide. So, why should you care as an educator in Connecticut? Connecticut is a leader in increasing access to healthy foods in schools and is home to one of the very first official food policy councils in the country. In 2006, the Connecticut State Legislature passed some of the most rigorous school nutrition standards in the country. Teaching nutrition-based and garden-based lessons in your classroom promotes knowledge towards making healthy eating choices, provides practical life skills, promotes a healthy relationship towards food, and fosters community and environmental stewardship. Next slide, please. Eat more fruits and veggies. A 2017 evaluation of Food Corps conducted by the Tisch Center for Food Education and Policy at Columbia University found that in schools that provide frequent, high-quality opportunities for hands-on learning, nutrition, students eat up to 3 times more fruits and vegetables at school lunch, regardless of whether or not the food was grown in the garden. Next slide. So why should you teach nutrition in the classroom? Eating a healthy diet and proper nutrition helps children stay alert during class, helps build strong immune systems, and allows them to grow into strong, healthy adults. School children get up to half the food they need each day at school, which makes schools an important place for learning healthy eating habits. Nutrition education can teach students to recognize how a healthy diet influences emotional well-being and how emotions may influence eating habits. Next slide, please. Teaching nutrition extends beyond the classroom. Many parties can benefit from nutrition in the classroom. Students will see improved academic achievement and physical well-being. Parents can benefit because children will be more inclined to make and want healthier choices at home. And the school benefits by having an improved climate and higher standardized testing scores. This increases funding to schools on a state and federal level. Next slide, please. So how does nutrition influence social emotional learning in the classroom? It's important to educate why and how a balanced diet leads to better behaviors and creates a more beneficial learning environment. Studies show that malnutrition leads to behavioral problems and that excess sugar has a negative impact on child behavior. Students who consume a diet higher in sugar has been shown to have a lack of energy and less focused in the classroom. We also see a correlation between school-age children who consume higher sugar diets with diagnoses such as ADD and ADHD. When children consume a balanced diet, which is less sugar and includes good protein, good fat, complex carbohydrates, and fiber, there are more favorable outcomes in the classroom. The bottom line, good nutrition helps students show up at school and be prepared. Students will have less absences, more time in class, and fewer interruptions. Fewer disruptions in the classroom creates a better learning environment for each student involved. Next slide, please. There are many nutritional deficiencies that have a great impact on learning, especially in children. Iron deficiencies, for example, leads to cognitive impairments and disturbances. So what are some foods high in iron? Spinach, broccoli, collard greens, to name a few. Many of these foods are not particularly favored by children. This is why it's important to educate children on the importance of eating healthier food options. Iron deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency in children. The global prevalence of anemia in 2010 was 32.9%, with the highest burden in children less than 5 years old. Another study showed a link between iron deficient anemia and lower attention span, lower intelligence, and lower sensory perception functions. While links to emotions and behavior were directly related to presence of iron deficiency anemia, it's important to note that iron deficiency without anemia may also cause cognitive disturbances. Next slide, please. So we can see how proper nutrition improves brain function. There's a lot of evidence proving how nutritional status can directly affect mental capacity among school-age children. Children are not consuming protein-rich diets with healthy leafy greens and vegetables, and that increases the opportunity for malnutrition. Diets that are low in protein and low in good fats directly impact the chemical and physical makeup of the brain. Dopamine, for example, it's a neurotransmitter in the brain. It's the feel-good hormone. Your body makes it and your nervous system uses it to send messages between nerve cells. Dopamine plays a role in how we feel pleasure, and it's a big part of our ability to think and plan. Next slide, please. So how do we cultivate a culture of healthy eating in the classroom? And why else is it important to do so? Emma will elaborate on some of these practices and how to implement them in your classroom. Next slide.
Thank you, Mashara. We can cultivate a culture of healthy eating in the classroom through developing a practice of self-care. This strategy actually builds upon social emotional learning initiatives and has the potential to foster a healthy relationship with food as it pertains to taking care of our overall well-being. Simply put, self-care is a way to nourish ourselves. So taking a look at the diagram to the side, we can see that there are 4 types of self-care highlighted here, although there are several others that impact us. These 4, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual, are important for anyone's self-care. Additionally, we can see under each type that there is a list of actions we can take to better that part of ourselves. For instance, people in general benefit from better sleep, stress management, support systems, and a feeling of connection, thus addressing parts of our physical, emotional, social, and spiritual needs. So we can assume that advocating for and encouraging self-care in the classroom enables students to learn self-awareness and self-management. Both are essential components of social emotional learning. Self-awareness is the ability to be aware of one's inner life and how these elements impact behavior and choices. Self-management is the ability to navigate and shift one's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in a healthy way in order to make intentional decisions and work toward goals that benefit oneself and our community. So bringing this into the classroom, students can have the opportunity to be taught useful steps for becoming in tune with their emotions and practice identifying what they need in the moment. Generally, by learning to mindfully develop self-awareness and labeling our emotions, we can then choose a practice or set a goal that corresponds to that emotion and wanting to feel better. This benefits students in that it increases their agency in decision-making. It fosters self-compassion, self-motivation, and self-discipline. And it increases their ability to meet their own needs proactively and establish healthy habits, which can translate to improved academic performance, social skills, and behavior. Next slide, please. So what does healthy eating look like for students? Healthy eating is self-care. It is how we take care of our physical needs, but it will look different for every single person. And it's essential that we recognize that socioeconomic privileges often improve one's ability to practice self-care. Part of self-care, however, is learning to accept our capabilities without shame or guilt. Quickly taking a look at the sweet messages on the side of the slide, we see take care of yourself and you got to nourish to flourish. But unfortunately, those 2 quotes are not as easy to implement in our daily lives as it is to read them. Part of self-care is to just do the best you can with the resources you are given. There's a quote here from T. Colin Campbell, the founder of the Center of Nutrition Studies. Good nutrition creates health in all areas of our existence. All parts are interconnected. Even more so, everything we interact with in our environment and everything we consume, from food, drinks, to medications, or even social interactions, everything is connected to our well-being. And because everything plays a part in our overall well-being and health, I want to acknowledge that there are limits within one socioeconomic reality. So, factors that may harm a community's ability to access healthy food and practice self-care are intersectional oppression. Do families have the proper funds for healthy foods? Do families have the time to go grocery shopping? Do families have access to education about food? And what foods may help them with their health concerns? In addition, there's environmental racism. Do families have a grocery store within a close distance to their home? So these are all questions that address several barriers to accessing healthy food that families and students realistically face. Next slide. But who needs to practice self-care? Honestly, everyone, from educators and administrators to community members and students. As an educator, you only have control and agency over your own behavior. Students as well only have control and agency over their behavior. To help them learn new behaviors, you can positively influence your students by leading by example. So taking time out of the day to breathe deeply, pause, and reset can make a difference for you, your students, and the school culture. Making space in the day to genuinely check in with each other or just check in with yourself, checking your own battery, can make a huge difference. And we can seize every opportunity to teach students how to build self-awareness through these check-ins. However, if you want to make self-care a priority, it needs to be something you plan into the day. When we make time to practice self-care, we think more critically and mindfully of our behavior, like choosing what foods we want to eat. And we can then create goals to achieve how we want to feel and achieve more health, let's say. That can be a goal. Next slide. But what does it mean to practice self-care through nutrition? These are some lovely examples, like being flexible with food choices, eating foods that you love with people you love, learning to slow down and savoring meals, and making sitting down to eat a priority. These all help us connect with our body and our senses and make eating a more pleasurable experience overall. On top of that, learning to be conscious of how those small changes make you feel and prioritizing that self-awareness in the classroom, we can celebrate the transformative power of community and relationships and build upon each other's successes. Alexis will now share with you more concrete ideas for how to incorporate self-care through nutrition in the classroom. Next slide. Thank you.
Yay, thank you so much, Emma. So awesome. So we know that you're all really busy and you're busy throughout the entire day. So we want to emphasize that you can promote healthy eating in a very brief and nuanced way throughout the whole day, so that eating healthy and talking about the food we're fueling ourselves with becomes a habit. We want talking about food and nutrition and healthy eating to be fun, interesting, and a way for our students to explore their curiosity and their culture. And as Emma so importantly mentioned, as a way for us to take a breath and to check in with themselves and to see how they're feeling. On this slide, we've highlighted some specific times that we think would work great for promoting healthy eating in the classroom. If your school provides breakfast in the morning, this is an awesome way to kick off a conversation about the importance of eating breakfast, asking students how they are feeling in the morning and tracking how they feel after they have a nice full belly. There is also space in the morning to have a question of the day that surrounds food or wellness, and that can be the topic of the conversation while they're eating their breakfast, or simply just asking students what they ate for dinner last night. After lunch is another key moment to promote healthy eating by simply taking a moment to check in with your students. Ask what was served at lunch, what they liked, what they didn't like. Did they eat all their fruits and veggies? You could even give students 3 minutes after lunch to resettle into the classroom and journal about how they are feeling and what they ate for lunch. Charlene will go into this a bit more later, but a great way to promote healthy eating and lunch is through a reward system. So if they ate healthy at lunch, you can add a sticker to their chart or let them do a fun classroom activity like write on the board. I always loved doing that when I was a student, things like this. And if this sounds like a lot and it's too much to do this every day, you could dedicate one day a week where you focus more on food, wellness, lunch discussions, and etc. Perhaps food Fridays. but snack time and water breaks throughout the day are a great little way to just pop it into your schedule and talk about eating healthy. You can also promote healthy eating through nutrition-specific lessons or by incorporating food and nutrition into the other classroom lessons. And that's what Charlene and I will be going over in the next 10 minutes. We encourage you to take notes if ideas stand out to you. Next slide, please. Thank you. So after going over why it's so important to promote healthy eating in the classroom and when you can make space to do so in your classroom, we're going to go over the how. So how can you promote healthy eating in your classroom? As I mentioned on the previous slide, there are various ways to incorporate healthy eating into your classroom. And Charlene and I will be going over these 7 hows, which include specific lessons, helping create a culture of health and nutrition, and just simply tips and tricks. Next slide, please. Okay. So first, we would just want to talk about generally having a culture of health and wellness and nutrition in your classroom. And the language we use to talk about foods is really important in creating a positive culture around food and nutrition in your classroom. And it's also a great way to check in with students throughout the day so that talking about food and checking in with ourselves becomes habits for everyone. And just as Emma mentioned, this is practicing self-care. So do we need a water or a snack break? Are we feeling tired because we aren't eating whole foods? And then ask the students, okay, how are you feeling? Do you need a water break? Are you hungry? What would make you feel better right now? And since we want to create a culture of health in the classroom, language is just generally a really important place to start. Remind students that food fuels you to do all the things that they love. It gives you energy to play, it gives you energy to laugh, to learn, to make friends, to socialize, etc. And when you are talking about food and you do have a minute to go over what they ate for lunch and things like that, encourage students to use their 5 senses to talk about it. Encourage them to use descriptive language, talk about flavor, texture, smell, and try to lightly discourage things like, ew, or I don't like that, that tastes nasty. We don't want to yuck anyone's yum. We don't want to yuck anyone's yum. Don't yuck my yum. That is just the main takeaway from language, is we really want to support and foster anything that tastes really good for you. Okay, next slide. So we know how busy you all are as educators, but if you have 30 minutes once a week or once a month to facilitate a nutrition lesson in your class, we have plenty of lessons to share. And these are just some that we want to highlight. So Eat a Rainbow or Grow a Rainbow is this fun little body guy on the bottom left corner. And that's a lesson that teaches the importance of having an array of colors on your plate. So eating a rainbow throughout the day keeps our body nourished and thriving. And through this lesson, kids learn which colored foods are vital to which areas of health in our body. Another lesson, which is at the top in the middle, is My Plate. So just ways to build a healthy plate. Encourage students to design their dream meal and then think, okay, is it healthy? How can we make this meal more nutritious? What are we missing? Mindful tasting is another really great mini lesson. Just simply tasting various foods and exploring the 5 senses through that. How to read nutrition labels, which you can see in the center right. This is just a great way to teach students how to identify which foods are nutritious. I know I didn't go over this until I think I was in 8th grade, and I really wish that I had understood nutrition labels a lot more when I was younger. And Stone Soup is a really fun one. In this lesson, we celebrate community. So you're making a soup of everyone's favorite vegetables, and what delicious soup can we create when we come together? And it's just really nice to hear what vegetables kids love. Parts of a plant is another one. This is just an exploration of plants. What are parts of the plants? Which parts of the plant can you eat, etc. So these are awesome lessons that also meet Common Core standards for literacy. So we'll give you the link to all these lessons and other activities at the end, but just wanted to name a few. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want to emphasize that I personally believe that food connects to everything. And I think that everybody here would agree with that as well, that food is just everything. So if you're not teaching a standalone food and nutrition lesson, then you can also just easily incorporate these big themes of food and nutrition into everyday life and classroom lessons. And that's what this slide is about. So some examples of incorporating these themes into other subjects or lessons would be math. So addition and subtraction and counting with pictures of fruits and vegetables, or learning fractions by measuring ingredients for a recipe or going over a recipe and asking students what they think that fraction means and showing them. For science, examining how plants grow, a lesson on photosynthesis, cycle of a nutrient, decomposition and life cycles through food waste and composting, and talking about our decomposer friends in the soil, or even writing grammar and vocabulary. So you can encourage students to write stories that incorporate food or create their own recipes and share recipes as a class and read that together. You can also learn new vocabulary words connected to food, nutrition, and really fun, exciting describing words. Just generally encouraging students to think about food as it relates to other things, because it really does relate to everything. Use food to connect students to each other, share family recipes, have family cooking nights, or encourage them to have family cooking nights. Learn about each other's culture through food. Use food to connect students to Connecticut, promote eating local, highlight a local farmer, talk about what is in season when. If you have your own garden, bring things in from your garden, share what's going on in your garden. And use food to connect students to culture, show storytelling with food, reading books about food and growing food, and teach students that we can learn a lot about each other through food. And use food to connect students to the earth. So what foods are good for the environment? Where do foods grow? How does it grow? How do we grow? How are the two connected? So I'm going to pass the rest of these how-tos in the classroom to Charlene. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Alexis. So another fun way of cultivating the culture of health in the classroom and in the school is to use, I know teachers love decorating their spaces inside the classroom, using bulletin boards in the hallways and also in the cafeteria. And this is a really great space to remind students of how to make healthier choices when they're building their plates. So one, if you look at the top left-hand corner, there's a really good chart that's called Go Slow Whoa. This go means, you can eat as often and as much of these kinds of food to stay healthy. We want to go slow on foods that are maybe high in carbs, especially simple carbs that convert to sugar, or unhealthy fats. And maybe whoa means we want to take it one step at a time, maybe eat these foods during celebrations or, at infrequent times. The Go, Glow, Grow is a favorite lesson of ours. We love this lesson because this can go in so many different directions, and it's a really fun one, very easy to remember for students. But when you're building your plate, in addition to the My Plate, there's the idea of making sure you have one food from each of these categories in order to build a healthy snack or a healthy meal. And you can see, like, on the bottom right-hand corner, there's a really cool worksheet that allows students to build their snack based on the Go, Grow, Glow chart. And this one is really fun, especially if you want to incorporate tastings in your classroom. If you have parents who are donating foods, maybe they can donate, something from each category. One parent can donate a Go, a Glow, a Grow, and then come together as a classroom community to build these snacks. And you'd be surprised how, the same 3 ingredients can be mixed and matched in different ways. And it's a good way to have students explore the food, use their 5 senses, share with each other what they thought was the best tasting combination. It's a really fun activity and a way to show, incorporate different core curriculum competencies. Another way is that taking those worksheets and maybe having them circle the best one that they liked, and maybe even building a snazzy snacks cookbook that could be shared with your classroom and even passed along. So yeah, there's different ways of incorporating these items. And then of course, once you have this, you can use these to decorate your classroom in different ways. So next slide, please. So eating healthy through a reward system. This is something that Alexis had mentioned. And this is a really good way to celebrate students in the healthy choices that they're making. So I actually did this one at Multicultural Magnet, so this might be familiar to some of you, but the caught eating healthy campaign was really successful. This is really fun to incorporate the nutrition staff, other teachers that are in the classroom, parents in the after school program, or in garden club. And this is where if you're caught eating something, maybe a Go Grow Glow food, you get a card and then it's incorporated into the classroom as a reward. And then of course, using bulletin boards to highlight, students as they make consistent consistent choices. So that's a really fun way. Another way to decorate is, having the students build a rainbow, put their favorite foods as they acknowledge, the different foods within the color spectrum, and using that to decorate. That's always very fun, colorful, and just eye-catching. If you decide to do taste tests, promoting which foods children tried and which one they liked. And that was that's what that photo is trying to represent with the kids and all their names. And then if you're looking, instead of maybe cupcakes or pizza in the classroom, maybe looking at, creating their favorite snazzy snack, or having them make their own smoothie, or maybe making their own version of like ice cream, or icy base stuff with blenders. That's always a good tool to have in the classroom. So yeah, these are all good ways to incorporate through a reward system. Next slide, please. Celebrations and food. As Alexis was pointing out, food is really connected to everything. Imagine going to a party where nothing was offered, not even water. That would be dreadful. And I'm sure you wouldn't go back to that party. So food is connected, is how we connect with each other, is how we celebrate. And so, using that as a platform to change the culture, even if it's slowly changing one thing at a time, is a great way to celebrate foods that are locally grown, that are culturally relevant, and that are preferred. When everyone here will be getting this slide deck will be available on our tool shed, and you'll see a lot of the information we've provided. There's extra stuff in the speaker notes. And there are links to calendars where I believe every day of the year there is a food being celebrated, a food item, whether it's a dish of fruit or vegetable, a snack, a drink, something is being celebrated. So it's a good way to incorporate in your social studies class, in your history class. And yeah, so highly encourage using food and use that as an opportunity to make small changes towards encouraging kids and extending the lessons that you're doing in the class into celebrations. Next slide, please. And we're GVI, so we are all about our school gardens. We believe this is the best classroom, and it's a good way to extend what you're learning in the classroom out into garden. You there's so many subjects that can be covered, everything from learning engineering principles, math principles. As you can see, we've got square foot gardening represented in the left hand corner. And that's a really good way of figuring out, what can be planted in that square, how many plants. So different subjects can be taught in the garden. What do you do when it's wintertime? You can always grow microgreens in your classroom and have and that can be included in your snazzy snacks. It's a great way to give little packets of nutrients and protein. And there's so many different microgreens that can be grown in the classroom. So definitely recommend that. And then just having them experience the plants, touching, not be afraid to touch, use their 5 senses to explore the garden. That's a big thing with children, and trying new foods is sometimes they're just not used to the color, the texture, the smell, the feel. And so getting them exposed and in that environment as often as possible helps bridge that next step to maybe being brave enough to try something in the garden. And the top right corner is actually a picture of Karina, who's on the call, who's on Zoom. And this is her sharing her, taking kale from the garden and making kale chips. So that's really another great way to use the garden space. So in addition to that, just so everyone here knows, in Bridgeport, there are 23 school gardens. There are 12 community gardens throughout the different neighborhoods around Bridgeport, which are free to families to use. All you have to do is go onto the GVI website and fill out an application. In addition to that, we have our educational farm where we host workshops, and we host experiential field trips in this fall and in the spring. And that's another good way to cultivate that culture of health, is exposing children to different environments where they're learning about environment, learning about the food, and connecting them to outdoors. Field trips to local farms, supermarkets, and food markets are also great opportunities as well. Next slide, please. So we're almost at the end here, but I just wanted to share with you our tool shed. We're continuously adding material to it each month, but I just wanted to point out all of the nutrition-based lessons from grades 1st through 6th grade that you can use. In addition to 2 games that we have, Recharge Your Body Jeopardy game, which is a really cool game that can be used, I would say, from 2nd grade on. And then My Pyramid Go Fish. So anyway, I hope all these links are live. So, if you get a hold of this PD for future reference, you can click and access all of these lessons through the PowerPoint. In addition to obviously going to our tool shed. All right, so I'm going to pass it off to Masharo, who's going to wrap it up for us. Next slide.
Thank you, Charlene. So that concludes the content of our presentation. Let us know if you'd like to be a garden champion at your school, if you need resources, or if you'd like to participate on our school garden advisory committee. For gardening supplies and other resources, there are several ways you can reach out to us this year. You can email myself here at School Garden Coordinator at GoGVI, or Charlene, or you can visit our tool shed that is linked in the slide previous and fill out request forms for seeds, seedlings, and soils, and much more. These forms can be found under the Forms and Resources page. Special thanks to our team, especially our presenters. You can contact Alexis and Emma using their email address listed here as well. Please note our address at GVI has changed. We're now located at 135 Clarence Street in Bridgeport. Next slide. Thank you everyone for participating in our first PD day of the school year. Now we're going to take a few minutes to fill out the survey that you can find that is linked in our chat here. We're going to take about 2 to 3 minutes and shift gears to our Q&A. we want to make sure we get to everyone's questions, and we only have about 10 minutes left. So if we could just pause here for 2 minutes. And if you have trouble accessing the link from this chat, don't worry, it is live, as Shirley mentioned in the presentation as well. Okay, next slide, please. So thank you for taking the time to complete our survey. The topic for our Q&A again is, how do you promote nutrition and healthy eating in your classroom or space? You can use the link in the chat again to respond to the Jamboard, or you can also just put your questions here and we can transfer it over for you if you don't have access to that. And we're gonna switch gears and get right over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharo. Well, I've been monitoring the group chat very vigilantly and I don't think I missed any potential questions. But I do encourage you, if you have access, awesome. We'll see you on the Jamboard. As you can see, it'll be live. But if you have a question or an idea that you would like to share, just shout it out. We have one question on the board, and it's, how can we ensure students take this information home to families? That's a great question. So does anyone on the team would like to answer that?
I think you might be the best person to answer that, Charlene.
Yeah.
Sorry to make you keep talking.
No, that's okay. I would love to hear from some of the educators too on the line. But yes, I think a good way of sharing this information with families is, I think I'm just going to go back to Go Grow Glow and those simple ways of communicating the idea. I mean, sending the information home could be done through packets, through, I would say, newsletters. I think one of the biggest, and I'll use MCM as an example too, through the Garden Club. They've invited the parents of the students in the Garden Club to come in as a parent group. And so the parents are learning alongside with the children. And that's another great way of getting this information home, is to invite the parents in as much as possible. We can send information home, but if the parents aren't involved in the process, it's really hard. I would say even encouraging students to take it home and let their parents know and ask them if they knew about it is really good. I don't know, students love to go home and say, "Mommy, did you," or, you know, "Auntie or Grandma, did you know?" And it's also a good way to ask, the older generation to answer the question of like, what does it mean to them? And beautiful stories come out of that. So I would say anything, in addition to sending home just raw information, anything that you can do to encourage and pull the families in, it is a great opportunity. And that could be, again, through a garden club, through, as I said, if you have parents, and I forget the name of the groups, but basically if you have parents who are assigned to classes and they're in charge of bringing, snacks and chips, or basically any snacks, giving them a different list, or promoting that idea of, snazzy snacks or something like that. I would say those are a good way of bringing that information home. I just want to highlight, and I'm going to actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to put this in our Jamboard, but we had developing a child's interest, participation, excitement in the happenings of the garden club is a good way to connect with our families. I agree. We all agree. We have a few minutes left. Anybody else? If you don't have a question, and you have an idea, or maybe something that we said sparked something, love to hear from you. The idea is that we would send this PDF of this Jamboard out with all the materials as well. So any suggestions to plant a winter garden to harvest in the spring? Ooh, that's a good one. Is Ellie still on the line? Yes, I see her. We have Farmer Ellie with us. I would love to give her the opportunity to answer this question.
Sure, thank you, Charlene. And I'm happy to say we have some tools that can help with this. If you've seen them before, there's little hoops you can put over your raised beds with some fabric that actually help insulate garden beds a little bit, so that you can have a better chance of things that you plant in the late fall survive into the spring if they're delicate. And even if you don't have those, if you can't get those, although GVI has them for our gardeners, community gardeners and school gardeners, you can always take your chances without those tools as well if you don't have time to put in little hoops and what we call remay fabric. You can plant these particular root crops and let them go, and a lot of times they do fine even without the hoops and the fabric, because a lot of our ancestors didn't have those when they were planting in the fall for the spring. I'll say all that to say that root crops like carrots are a great direction to go in for planting in the fall and getting a harvest in the spring. And radishes can be like an interesting one as well. We don't normally think of it this way, but actually the carrots that I've harvested in the spring in school gardens have sometimes been the sweetest carrots. And we used to do this a lot on our farm as well, getting ready for spring field trips, planting fall carrots, because all of the energy and sugar that normally goes up into the leaves of the plant to photosynthesize, in the winter that's not happening, so it gets focused down into the root. And if you give them kind of that that kind of energy suppression of growing it through the winter. You'll get a sweeter carrot, a tastier radish. So that's a really, really cool practice, and it just tastes like candy. And then some quick things to plant if you don't get around to it in the fall are, again, radishes in the spring. Pop them in. They usually take, a little, maybe around a month to get something to eat. And then peas have been really great to kind of tide us over and get something quick in production for the spring. But this could be a good handout that we could produce as well, that would have a list of different veggies that you can plant in kind of these shoulder seasons to have something to get kids excited in the garden. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, thank you, Ellie. Yes, and I would encourage you all to look at our tool shed. We do have a fall, spring, and summer crop plan, and that could help with giving you some ideas of what to plant. All right, so I think we're over time, but I think we'll just close out the Q&A. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I want to thank all of our guests. Thank you for coming. This recording will be put on our toolshed and on YouTube, and the slide deck will be made available to all the attendants. So thank you, thank you. Make sure to let us know what else you'd like to see. All right, enjoy.